Thank you for joining me for another episode of Sam's Tech Stuff. Today, I'll be reviewing and working with the PS14-E ATX case, courtesy of Silverstone. The PS14-E is a newly released case for 2020 that will support MATX, ATX, and SSI CEB motherboards up to 12 inches by 10.5 inches. In addition, the PS14E is set up to support multiple fans for air cooling, as well as water cooling. The case will support several AIOs or even a fully custom water loop. I'll be reviewing the case, as well as building an AMD Ryzen-based system inside of it. We'll go through the specs, the build quality, and the build experience as I fully assemble my build on my test bench. Before I get into the PS14-E details and build, if you're interested in PC component reviews like this one, gaming PC builds, or home lab server content, get subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon below this video for future video notifications. I'll be linking to the Silverstone PS14-E case, as well as the AR12 RGB cooler that I'm going to use in this build, so definitely check out the description below. The PS14-E is a mid-sized case that offers both a tempered glass side panel option or a steel side panel option. The tempered glass side panel is smoked or tinted. This will help show off your RGB goodness, but keep the brightness from the LEDs from being too distracting in your build. The steel side panel version of the case keeps a sleek, sleeper aspect to the build if you're not into the RGB craze. Silverstone chose to make this case somewhat unique by adding a provision for a 5.25 inch drive bay. If needed for your build, you can optionally install a Blu-ray drive or even a fan controller if you like the look of those kind of units. There's two 2.5 inch drive mounts for SSDs inside of the case, between the motherboard and the front air intake. Underneath the power supply shroud and around the back side of the case, there are two more mounting locations for either two additional 3.5 inch drives or optionally mounting two additional 2.5 inch drives. As far as cooling goes, there are multiple options to keep your system running cool and quiet. By default, the PS14-E will come with one 120mm black fan from Silverstone. This fan will spin at a maximum RPM of 1200, and the max airflow is rated at 36 CFM, with an air pressure of 1.2 millimeters to H2O. Even at 100% fan speed, the fan is rated at just 23 dBA, so it'll be pretty quiet. If you're planning on an air cooling setup, you can either install two 120mm fans on the front intake or one 140mm fan if you keep the 5.25 inch drive bay. Removing the 5.25 inch drive bay unlocks enough space for up to three 120mm fans or two 140mm fans. The top of the case will support either two 120mm fans or two 140mm fans. The rear exhaust of the case either supports a 120mm fan or a 140mm fan, and obviously comes with a 120mm from the factory. Stepping into the water cooling arena, the radiator sizes and caveats are largely the same as an air cooling setup. In the front of the case, you can either fit a 120mm rad, a 140 or a 240mm rad, or if you remove the 5.25 inch drive bay mount, you can fit a 280mm radiator or a 360mm radiator. Silverstone notes that without the 5.25 inch drive bay, you can potentially fit another 120 or 240mm rad up the top of the case. If you do this, just be mindful of the fittings and the tubes, as well as the tube types, and you'll actually be able to cram quite a bit of radiator into this case. On the rear, you can certainly still install a 120mm or 140mm rad for your custom loop, or if you're just doing AIO, you can certainly mount a 120 or 140 for a component back here also. This case design splits the front panel of the PS14-E into two areas. In terms of the I/O, it's all located on the front side of the case. There are two USB 3.0 ports, as well as two 3.5mm audio ports that support a headphone and mic. The power and the reset buttons, however, are over on the far right side of the panel. The front of the case is a solid matte finish panel type with an accent feature. The front panel of the case has air intake slots on the left and right hand side. These slots are all angled down and designed for air intake from the front fans to pull in fresh air. Inside of the case, there is a larger honeycomb style fan grate that will help prevent larger items like your pet's hair from entering the case, which is nice to see. The top of the case is fully vented and includes a magnetic dust filter. Beneath the power supply mounting location, there's also a fan filter that slides out to let your PSU breathe in some fresh air. The case comes in at a depth of 438mm with a height of 469mm and a total width of 210mm. This means that you'll be able to fit up to a 177mm tall cooler, which is actually quite large. Graphics cards up to 357mm in length with a maximum width of 183mm will also fit. The maximum supported ATX power supply length is listed as 190 to 210mm depending on the cabling that you have. In terms of build quality, the PS14-E is a great case. There were no noticeable sharp edges to be found at all, and all of the cable pass-throughs made sense and were actually usable. The main 24-pin motherboard and especially the 8-pin EPS cable pass-throughs were very easy to use. I didn't have any trouble with the power supply cables snagging or struggling to go through. I've had other cases where this was not the case and it was quite frustrating, so this was definitely something I appreciated seeing. The chassis is made from a relatively thick and sturdy steel template. There was little to no flex in any portion of the case's body or the rear panel, which was great to see. The cheaper cases tend to have quite a bit of flex in all of the metal panels, especially when they're disassembled or each part. The PS14-E definitely passes this test with a very rigid overall setup. The smoked tempered glass side panel was also in perfect condition. Overall, the construction of this case is well thought out, clean, and rigid. These are all things that I look for when building in a case. In terms of temperature testing, I built and ran my Ryzen 3600 test system with a GTX 1080 Ti inside of the case to see what the temperatures would be like. For the CPU cooler in this testing, I did use the Silverstone AR12 RGB cooler. I did do a review on this, you can check it out in the upper right hand corner. With just one included case fan, the CPU had an average temperature of 73 degrees in 3D Mark Time Spy, with peaks into the 77 to 78C range. The GTX 1080 Ti, on the other hand, averaged 64C with the default fan curve. The peaks were in the 68 to 70C range. For gaming applications, these temperatures are in the ranges that I would expect for this case. For the most optimal cooling performance, I would probably recommend adding 1 or 2 Silverstone FN121P fans to the front of the case to optimize airflow and pressure inside of the case to drop those temperatures even further. Overall, I was quite happy with the build experience and testing in the Silverstone PS14-E. This case really embraces a non-flashy but sleek look, which is quite nice to see. It was quite easy to build a system inside of this case. Using the cable pass-throughs and the extended length PSU shroud really helped maximize airflow inside of the chamber where the PC parts were. The case had a really good thickness to it, so it was quite rigid. As I said earlier, there are no sharp edges, which I also appreciated. The entire layout of the case really did make sense for building a mid-range system. The PS14-E comes in right around $68 to $70 on Amazon right now. At this kind of pricing, if you like the design of the case, I would definitely recommend it. The only note that I have would be that for the best cooling performance, you're going to want to add in 1 or 2 extra intake fans in the front of the case, so you may want to budget an extra $20 for that. Let me know in the comments section below what you think of this case, or if you're looking into doing a complete PC build soon. I'll be linking out to the PS14-E from Silverstone in the description down below, so definitely check that out. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button and let me know in the comments section. I create gaming PC and home lab tech videos every week, so if this kind of stuff interests you, get subscribed to the channel. Until next time, you can follow me on Twitter @SamsTechStuff, on Facebook at facebook.com/SamsTechStuff, or on the website samstechstuff.com.